may we also request the panel chair and the panelists for session 7 to join us here on stage.
You want me to sit here now?
Yes.
Good to meet you, Rajesh.
Yes, sir. Yes, we met on Zoom once.
Yes, I know. I just recognize your face. It's going very well.
Yes, so far. So good.
Excellent.
Nice to meet you in person.
So do you want it to come with you for perusal?
I,
You have? Or just
talking about that social science employability opportunities. Employability opportunities. Social science employability. Connect with the broader
there will be 6 of you.
sorry?
There will be 6 of you in the panel.
Yes, so what is going to happen is that he's going to present the first paper, so there's going to be one presentation, and then he's going to go, and then the rest, everybody's going to come. Yes. Good?
Thank you. Okay.
We'll stand and do that.
I have to also read some data. So I can also read some data.
All right, everyone. I hope that you have all taken your morning tea and snacks, and we are all ready for the second part of our morning session today. So, this session, session 7, is titled Sustainable Policies for a Changing Indo-Pacific. So, let me introduce our session chair. Our session chair is Dr. Rajesh Tandon. He is an internationally acclaimed leader and practitioner of participatory research and development. He founded Participatory Research in Asia, or PRIA, in 1982 and continue to be its chief functionary. He is also co-chair of the UNESCO Chair in Community-Based Research and Social Responsibility in Higher Education since 2012. He has authored more than 100 articles, a dozen books, and numerous training manuals. He was inducted to the International Adult and Continuing Education Hall of Fame class of 2011. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rajesh Tandon.
All right. Good morning to you all. It looks like that tea is more interesting than this session. So I am requesting all of you to join the tea with me. Because it is not very respectful for the speakers to sit here while talking over tea is going on, irrespective of the age of the speakers. Good morning to you all. As I was introduced, I am Rajesh Tandon. Some photography is going on here. Finished? Okay. So this panel and this presentation have been combined together, and I am moderating the presentation and the panel. The overall theme of our next 1 hour and 10 minutes. We were allotted 70 minutes. So since tea has taken more time, we request you to indulge in 70 minutes from now. In the first part of this, we will hear a presentation by two young researchers, Dr. Rabi and Ms. Saanya. The framework in which we will hear their presentation is Decode, Decolonized Co-Construction of Knowledge, especially in the context of emerging challenges of our times, particularly climate impacts. And both Saanya and Rabi have been involved in various parts of the research work on Decode. In fact, we are very delighted that our proposal for a policy on indigenous knowledge has been accepted by Asian Association of Social Science Research Council, so that our experience on indigenous knowledge can also be inputted in the future deliberations of this wonderful Asian association. So I'm going to request Rabi to make his presentation, and after that I'm going to invite the rest of the panel members, and we will continue our conversation and sharing, and then open it up for any questions or comments towards the end. And thank you, Miguel, for giving us the desired time. Thank you. Okay, Ravi, yours.
A very good afternoon to everyone. First of all, thank you, AASSREC and Indian Council of Social Science Research, to give me the opportunity to speak something about which I experiencing since when I was a student, then I become an educator. Currently, I am practicing all these lived experiences my childhood, and now this is the space where I can share my experience and journey throughout the social science. So, and also I will congratulate AASSREC and the Indian Council of Social Science Research that they identified these themes, which is the need of this present era, because when we talk about the assimilation of technology and sustainability, there should be a balance. But presently, we can see in the Indo-Pacific region, there is an imbalance between the STEM education and social science education. So my paper is going to contribute and highlight these discussion about that how the systematic devaluation and marginalization of humanities and social science in a Indo-Pacific region. So I will try to build some evidence-based data and that narratives which will advocate that there is a need of that humanities and social science for the sustainable development and achieve the SDG in terms of different SDGs which is identified in a global platform. So before the discussion is going on that how we see social science as an opportunity of employability and how we can enhance the capacity of social science research in a global platform to understand the different kind of social, cultural, political, and economic context of the region. So definitely social science play a very important role to understand the human behavior, to understand the social problems, to understand the dealing between the society and the individuals, that how they can perform and how they can perform. So it becomes very important to recognize and acknowledge the need of social science within our social system. So before jumping into the social science versus STEM, that I will try to highlight that either it's a STEM or either it's a social science. The first basic concept is education. When we see education, education was once regarded primarily as a means to nurture human potentials and inspire civic imagination. However, in India and much of the Indo-Pacific region today, higher education has increasingly been transformed in the tool of economic rationalization. Institutional priorities now revolve around efficiency, employability, and competition, often at expense of broader intellectual development. So my paper is going to critically examine the political and epistemic consequences of this shift, focusing especially on the systematic marginalization on humanities or social science in favor of technocratic progress. And through the methodology of this paper, it is totally based on the secondary based data where I use three criteria, that is credibility, comparability, and visibility. Credibility includes ICSSR, UGC, Academic Freedom Index, and Ministry of Education dashboard. And through the comparability, examples that reflect similar political pressure around the globe. And visibility, publicly acknowledged cases of curriculum or policy change. So, we are told that, and since the last two discussion that, and also we are realizing that humanities and social science is not getting that much of space that STEAM education is getting the space within the space. So, and also that one of the students in the morning, he raises that there is a less employability opportunities and that declining of humanities and social science because of jobs or low market demand. But global research shows a different story. For example, in Australia, that humanities and social science fees were doubled in 2020 under the job-ready graduates because that state's government stated that humanities and social science gives the ideology, not the employability. That's why the reason behind that Australia, that higher education in social sciences, fees were doubled. And also one of the example we can go for in Hungary, that gender studies degrees were banned in 2018, and also in India, that many content from the sociology and social science has been removed from the social sciences. And also, these are not neutral trends. They show that disciplines that creates critical thinkings are being politically targeted. So, to support this argument, so these are some theoretical frameworks we try to connect, which can be see that these arguments are not that fragmented or not fabricated. It's grounded in the theoretical background. So we can see in the Marx, Farrow, Giro, and Althusser has many kind of assumption and theoretical rationale given many years ago, that because that Marx says education reproduced class orders, and Althusser argued that university functions as ideological state apparatus. And Paul Furo, in a pedagogy of a priest, warned that the banking education kills critical consciousness, and Zeros also describes that neoliberalism as a disimmunization machines. So all these insights point to one thing, that weakening social sciences is a method for a controlling imagination of individuals, limiting dissent, and shaping citizens who follow rather than question. And also that some of the figure, it clearly shows that how that social science gets space in the funding research, because the most of the fundings we can see either that currently budget 2025-6, 2024-25, you can clearly Google it, that the figure is clearly stated that the most of the 85% of total research funding goes to the STEM figures and the STEM education. That the one of the figure here I want to quote, that in this year more than 60,000 crores research funding goes to the STEM education. It's more than 70 times ahead which got received from the Indian Council of Social Science Research. And also alone IIT getting more than 10,000 crores fundings to support all the IITs. Here I can see that clearly these kind of imbalance, that now the society thinks that technological development, upgrade and visibility of the society, but there is a less that visibility which is given to the social science space. And I think there is a that earlier presentation which is that Revati ma'am is also explained, that there is a huge potential within the social science research, but there should be a that kind of balance between the STEM and social science research. Because now that when we talk about that these are the less opportunities within the social science research, but in a globally like a Google and Apple, that is the higher paid job companies, they are still hiring ethicists, social science behavior scientists, that communicant special, that behavior scientists, all these comes from the social science researches. And so we can't say that there is a less opportunity. We have to explore, we have to find, we have to prove our credibility of social science research that can contribute to. Technology can build the infrastructure, but for sustainability, we need social sciences. For example, I want to say here, a technology can build a solar plant, but a technology cannot tell us that how it can be distributed, who will access, and how these women can benefit from the solar plant. These all aspects, these all ideas only comes from the social sciences. So, and these are the things. Next, that how these decline of the consequences. Quickly, I will wrap up in 2 minutes. So, these are the some things that we can see. If we will devalued and that we will promote the decline of social sciences, so these are the sequences. So we have to think about it, because I think this is the global gathering of the social sciences, academicians, policy makers and researchers, and we have to rethink about that how we can create space for a social science research. And also there are many examples which is in an Indo-Pacific region, that is Singapore strongly prioritized STEMs and defund humanities and as a low income values, and also Philippines under Detroit University sociology departments were labeled as a breeding ground of dissent. And these are some examples. And also that what we lose if we decline the social sciences, that is moral imaginations, that cultural memories and public reasoning, voices at the margins, and we lose justice-oriented policy making. And also that why sustainability needs humanities and social sciences, because that also nowadays it's a very important and burning topic that we are thinking about that climate change and the impact of climate issues. And here I want to mention that intro panel of climate changes explicitly states that social sciences are essential for understanding communities, analyzing power and changing behavior, and designing just transition. A good example is that Chennai drought. In India, we can see that we can learn the lessons from that, how it happens in India. And what must be reclaimed, To respond these crises, we must remain five things. Investment in public universities, like Germany did in 2015 when it made higher education free. Include humanities and social science in climate and development policies, like New Zealand does through Maori knowledge system, and break STEM versus humanities or social science silos. That Finland's phenomenal based learning model is a strong example for us, and build Indo-Pacific Knowledge Alliance similar to Asian University Network collaboration, and protect academic freedom to true backbone of knowledge production. These are the pathways, not only rebuild education, to rebuild democracy. Last but not the least, humanities and social science are not optional. They are the foundation of a democratic, ethical, and sustainable future. At the end, I will end with the quote of Nelson Mandela. He said that education is the only weapon, powerful weapon, that can be used to change the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Provocative, important. Two ideas come to my mind from this presentation you made before I invite the panel. You know, when you read the bios of speakers and presenters, you will discover that my first education is in electronics engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. And in 5 years of that program, which means 10 semesters, there was a social science and humanities course in every semester. Before I entered IIT, I was a physics, chemistry, mathematics student. I had stopped studying social sciences after grade 8. But in IIT Kanpur, at that time, I had to study 10 courses on humanities and social sciences. And that, looking back, I think was an important lesson for my professional upbringing. The second thing I want to bring to your attention, I don't have that reference offhand, but GUNI, Global University Network for Innovation, is a UNESCO-linked global network of higher education institutions. And it produces every 2 years a global report. And in 2018-19, its global report was focused on exactly the topic that Rabi is raising, STEM and social science, not STEM or social science. And that global report is worth taking a look at because it captures trends around the world. So thank you, Rabi. Thank you very much. I am now going to move on to the Decode panel. And if there are any questions and comments later, we'll invite you on the panel. Where is that PPT? And that, do we have that machine? Yes, good. It's important to control the machine. Why? Because the presenters can go out of sync. So, my fellow panelists, please come and join, and I'll introduce you in a minute. We need new names, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
New names?
Do we have new names? Otherwise, they will be similar. So, you heard me introduce Saanya. Saanya is coordinator with UNESCO Chair based here in Delhi. UNESCO Chair is a two-legged UNESCO Chair on community-based research and social responsibility in higher education. First leg is in University of Victoria in Canada with Professor Bud Hall, and the second leg is with me here in Priya, and you heard a little bit about Priya. Happy to help you Google Priya, www.priya.org. You don't need any more information. Those interested can Google it. 2 years ago, we began a study, international study, called Decode. Decolonized co-construction of knowledge with relevance for climate impact. सुनिए फोटोग्राफर आप ऐसे खड़े हैं कि वो प्रोफेसर साहब हमको देख नहीं पा रहे हैं, हैं? उनको भी तो देखने का मौका दीजिए. No, he was obstructing professor's view, and I want him to also be able to look at us. So, the panel here is going to share some of the lessons arising out of this. And what is this program all about? Over the years, in the realm of participatory research, we have been discovering that community knowledge, knowledge of indigenous communities, has been not recognized, de-recognized, devalued, invisible. So what Rabi was saying about the budget of social science, that is the budget of Indian Council of Social Science Research, and I think that budget should be increased several fold. There is no question about it. We have been arguing for it. But there is a body of knowledge in research which does not enter the formal documents of national statistics. And that is the knowledge that communities undertake in order to solve their problems on an ongoing basis. And indigenous knowledge, particularly knowledge of our tribal people and indigenous communities, rural farmers, women in the Himalayas, that knowledge never receives recognition, and its relevance to climate issues is not exactly analyzed. So we wanted to undertake a global study, and we were grateful to IDRC for providing initial support for this, to look at 10 cases around the world of how indigenous community-led research, many a times in partnership with academic researchers, produced solutions which had an impact on climate resilience, either in their practice or in their policy. So, you all have a pamphlet on this. We will leave all this digital information, and you can go through Decode Knowledge website for more details. But let's use this time to hear our panelists. These are the people who have been involved in. I'll have to go there. Move. Oh, I'll go there. You go and sit that side. I'll sit this. Okay. Because I'll have to every time stand up. And you are speaking. I don't need to stand up. So these are the 10 case studies. And the pamphlet that is with you on your table also has the same photograph. So we will be hearing from Dr. Arhan. He is a senior program specialist in IDRC, International Development Research Center, based out of the Delhi office. He will give us some ideas about the Arctic in Canada and how the study on the livelihoods, life and livelihoods of Arctic people and their relationship to polar bears. The second case study, which happened in Colombia, and Paloma here was the researcher. Paloma is from Colombia. She works with the University of the Andes in Bogota in Colombia. And she did 2 case studies. One is the one in Colombia and the other one in Bolivia. And Colombia and Bolivia are on the Latin American side of the map. And she will give examples of how that worked. We have Shailesh with us. Shailesh is the Chief Executive Officer of Himalayan Action Research Center, HARC. They were involved in this program and study in Kaleshwar region, which is listed here as Women's Cooperative in this list. And he will give illustration about that. And we also have Saanya with us. Saanya is going to speak a little bit about the case study which was done in Sarawak, Malaysia. And unfortunately, the researcher is not here, but Saanya was involved with the Apong community in Sarawak. So those are the case studies, and in each of them, we will hear what happened. And if I may move this further. ठीक है, इससे भी कर सकते हैं यहाँ बैठ के ना, ऑफ था, ओह ओके, ऑफ. So maybe I should pick up my papers and sit there because of that. You can come here. Saanya, you can go there and just be more visible, because on this side I want you all to see us, no?
You can come here.
You stay there. All right. Now we have to make up our time, huh? So they are not going to stand up here and make presentation. They're going to tell some stories, and I'm provoking them with some questions that they will respond to. So I'm going to start first with you, Shailesh. The study that you did, it's called Food from Forest in Kaleshwar, and there is a thriving women's cooperative there which is producing a number of herbal, local products and marketing them. Now, how did that begin to happen? These women, I understand from the case study, were using these forest products in their daily life at home. How did, from using them at home, it turned into a cooperative? What happened to their knowledge? How did you or others play a role in making that happen?
Thank you, sir. First of all, I will highly thankful to this forum to inviting us as speakers. And as far as your question is concerned, that how this knowledge, converted into sustainable livelihood. So, as we are talking here about the concept of food from forest, every year we will see the story that is surrounding around the food from forest and livelihood. So prior to moving ahead, first we have to understand, and I would like to explain that how forest, and we can say how the women's roles is important in the forest. For generation, it's a very well and common fact that in mountain area, the community have the very deep relationship with the forest, and especially women, which is the backbone of the agriculture, farm-based livelihood. So they have since traditionally lot of knowledge. They understand that what sort of forest resources they have, how to pluck it, how to harvest, how to use it, what sort of forest producers have its traditional use in terms of food and medicine and that kind of it. So they have vast of traditional kind of ecological knowledge. But at the same time, it was not recognized. Somehow it was valuable, but it's not valued as per our concerns. So we as a promoter organization, Himalayan Action Research Centers, we thought that the traditional ecological knowledge is already there, women cooperative is already there. So turning point was that how to convert these food product forest producers into the sustainable livelihood without compromising the sustainable harvesting, we can conservation thoughts. So that then idea comes that we will convert these local resources into sustainable livelihood through the cooperatives. So overall story, I will try to brief into 3 points, sir. First 3 steps we will say. First step was we systemize the traditional system and knowledge first things. So what we try, we sit with that community, with the women, and try to understand their knowledge, that what actually they do from the wild producers, what is the uses, what to we could carry out the ethnobotanical kind of study. But at the same time, we take care that we were just a learner, not a teacher, because we understand they know much more than us, like not an academic institution that we understand. So we try to learn and document. So it was actually the process of systemizing knowledge into, we can say, systemizing traditional wisdom into the systematic knowledge documents. So after that, in second step, we add value. We try to whatever, we just sit with the community and try to identify some, wild forest resources which can be value added, which could be the viable source of the community's income. So they identify 20 or 23 local producers which can be value added. So second step, we try to build their capacity with the their traditional knowledge and well contemporary market knowledge. And we try to build their capacity and skills on the eco-friendly way, for value addition, processing, and that kind of things which are actually required for transferring low-value product into high-value product. So in that terms, we can say this step was actually transforming or turning to their traditional knowledge into skills and entrepreneurships. We try to build this, overall this.
Thank you, Shailesh.
Yeah.
Very good. This is very helpful.
Yeah.
But the strong step, first step of systematizing
Yeah.
women's knowledge.
Yeah.
And so I'll come back to you after this second round. Let me ask Paloma now. Paloma, you were this is Bolivia, an area called Panchagrama. And Paloma, you were doing the study with them, and we saw that the indigenous people of this area had traditional monitoring mechanisms for climate, for seasons, when it will rain, when it will be dry season, and accordingly they were building their agriculture, their livelihood. But then this traditional knowledge was linked to more modern meteorological science. Can you tell us how does this happen? What made it about?
Okay, thank you, Rajesh, and thank you, everyone. First of all, it's important to have a little bit of context. As you see in the pictures, this is a high hills of Bolivia. Bolivia is like more than 3,000 meters from the sea level. And most of the people works as an agriculture, a farmer people. And also they are indigenous people from the Aymara ethnicity. So they have, as I think many of the cultures that works in crops, in the agriculture, they have this knowledge about the land and about the weather and about the crops. And this knowledge and how they predict or forecast the weather, they use these natural indicators or bio-indicator as the organization Prosuco, that is accompanied all the process of their farmers, calls it. And what are those, which are those bio-indicators or natural indicators? For example, the sounds that the fox makes. For example, if the fox is bangs or cry, it is a sign of something. Yes, it is a sign of it's going to rain or it's going to be wet. Yes, or for example, where this bird make the nest. There is a aquatic plant, and if the bird makes his nest upper, it seems that it signs that is going to rain this high because of the nest. And it depends also where the door of the nest is located, if it's that side or that side. So this is all the knowledge that they have, they have and they have been having from generations and generations, and I think it's maybe common in other communities too and in other societies too. But the thing is that this knowledge haven't been recorded or systematized. So it could be useful and more accurate to have better and accurate information. So that's where the Pachagrama became born. Pachagrama means Pacha. It's a word that means, it seems to Pachamama. Pachamama, Pacha is the word in Aymara's language that means earth, and mama, mother, so Mother Earth. And then they changed the mama word from grama. So Pachagrama means like the register, the grama of the earth. So the Pachagrama is this tool that works as a bridge between this traditional knowledge and Occidental knowledge. So they can, the Pachagrama works by recording and systematize every day, daily, all these bioindicators. Like, for example, this day the sun is in here, tomorrow the sun is in here, the fox is doing that sound, yes, and the recording, systematically record of that indicators makes agriculture people and farmers to improve their crops, to have the forecast more accurate, because they know the season. Maybe these indicators shows me that it's going to rain in these seasons on between those days, but the Pachagrama, what makes is that for the forecast is more accurate, that this day is going to come. And it is measurable. This knowledge became measurable, and I think it's
So this
important.
knowledge became measurable once they were able to systematize it with additional support from the modern science.
Exactly.
Once again, an example of integrating traditional experiential community knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and building on it with modern science to produce results which are more usable, more impactful, and in this case, more predictable for rainfall and seasonality. Thank you. Now, let me turn to you, Saanya. In Sarawak region of Malaysia, this case study focused on apong, which is a palm sugar, traditionally being produced by local communities, and the area there is full of mangroves, and the partnership with the local UNIMAS University Kadim Center brought this improvement in their productivity and technology. But how did they ensure that mangrove protection continued? Because sometimes when new technology comes in, new production begins to happen, the traditional practices of protecting mangroves disappear. So how did that balance happen in Apong case? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move this.
Hello. Thank you for your question. So in this slide, you see the Pennoak people. These are they call themselves the Pennoak keepers of the Apong forest. So Apong is a type of sugar that is brought out of the mangrove trees in the mangrove forest. And their story goes in a way where where they have had the knowledge of how to harvest mangrove trees for Apong for hundreds of years, but that knowledge was never systematized. And then with the coming of modernization and the coming of better monitoring technologies and better harvesting technologies, they were able to systematize it, and they were able to work in better conditions. And thus the synthesis of traditional knowledge along with the modernized scientific knowledge came to play, which has helped them a lot. And to kind of to maintain their ownership over their own knowledge, what systematization and synthesis with natural science did for them was that they created a cooperative. They came together to create a cooperative of the penwork keepers, where now they own that knowledge. They own the whole process of how apong is harvested, from sowing it in at the right time, from using the right technology. Everything is dictated by these people themselves. So their case kind of very clearly shows that how when community knowledge is recognized and realized and valued as it exists, it leads to leadership of the community itself, it leads to the ownership of knowledge by the community itself, and it strengthens community control over the knowledge, which leads to obviously better living conditions for everybody, food sovereignty for the communities, better reactions towards climate change for the communities, and obviously leads them to having a better livelihood as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Similar to somewhat the Kaleshwar Women's Cooperative, that when the knowledge is shared and systematized and new productive initiatives happen, they also are able to co-govern, co-manage, and reap the economic livelihood benefits. Let me turn to you, Aran, now. Not in your role as IDRC, but your role as a person from Canada. And in the Arctic communities of Canada, one of the case studies showed how knowledge about that region and impact of climate on that region was related to the lifestyle and movements of polar bear called Nanook. How did this arrangement produce value for local knowledge of the Arctic elders? So how did you, what happened in that interaction about scientists, local elders, and around the polar bear story?
Thank you, Rajesh, and I was going to say an honor, but it's so much fun to sit on this panel and traversing, all this experiences from across the globe. I'm going to make a quick disclaimer, though I am from Canada, though I have gone on record to say that I like going out in minus 25. I cannot represent this case story very, very well. It is because there's nobody from this case study here that I tell this story. One thing I want to say, please watch the video. The video is not only stunning, but also very enlightening because they actually see the interaction of indigenous Inuit researchers with Western science, and it's beautifully made. I wish we had a 5-minute version because then I wouldn't have to tell this story. So yes, this is and the reason that I thank Rajesh for putting this on is because IDRC is a Canadian organization, but we don't work in Canada. But decolonizing knowledge, to have a Canadian case study in this is extremely powerful because it's as relevant in our own context in Canada as it is globally. So this is a story as part of the Decode project that documents the knowledge of polar bears in the Davis Strait region. This is very far north from wherever I've been, just to underline again how remote I am from that reality. And it uses storytelling, film, interactive story maps to preserve cultural heritage and inform climate adaptation. Why does this matter here? Arctic warming is twice the global average. The impact of global warming is very different, and in the Arctic it's very, very large. The impact on livelihoods is enormous, and that impacts polar bears. What Inuit local knowledge there does is help predict these ecological shifts and then design community-led adaptation strategies. And the real objectives, and this is and I come back, maybe I can come back to that later. In the Canadian context, there's been a lot of progress in terms of doing exactly what we're talking about, integrating indigenous knowledge with modern science, or whatever you want to call it. This did not come about automatically. This has been efforts of decades of advocacy by indigenous knowledge and progressive scholars in universities to do that. Polar bears, apart from they look stunning in the video, they are keystone, what they call keystone species. They maintain Arctic ecosystem balance. The decline of polar bears signal the climate change and the decline of the Arctic, and the Arctic warming and decline of the environment. But at the same time, they have a very big cultural significance. I come back to Ravi's definition of sustainability, right? The polar bears are central to Inuit identity and traditional knowledge. I do recall one of the researchers in the video talking about polar bears, and you see there's a different relations with it, because like those polar bears, and they explain, yeah, they're really smart. They say they're smarter than white people. And I don't doubt that. And so because of the role those polar bears, and that's why this knowledge is so important, not only for the locality, is also, you know, the protecting those polar bears supports biodiversity in that regions, and with that indirectly also the SDGs. So in the video you would see that the differences illustrated, not explained, between indigenous knowledge and Western science. Indigenous knowledge, and I just list them as they come out, are holistic, they're relational, they're experiential, they're oral, they're context-specific, place-based. They don't try to generalize. They're interested in learning, but they don't generalize. A very important difference. And they focus, they emphasize the ethical stewardship of the environment, very different from how external research relates to them. As opposed to Western science, and this is a bit of a generalization, but still a very important one. Western science is fragmented and data-driven. It's analytical, standardized. That's what I learned at the university, right? So it's very important to learn about this. We think about Western science, universal principles, generalizability, and we think about technical physics. Now, the final thing I want to say is two things. One, the Nanook narratives, as this study is called, it shows the importance of knowledge democracy, the existence of different types of knowledge. The differences, historically, they've been conflictual, but the good news is, and again, you see that in the practice here, and in that particular case, is that people working in a context don't see them as opposites. What they're looking for is and in Canada, again, this is slightly more institutionalized than in many other cases. They're looking for a respect for, a recognition of the value of that knowledge on that basis, and when good partnerships are built, trust is built, and as somebody said a couple of weeks ago, it's like, we move at the speed of trust. The building of those partnerships is really important. Then people see the complementarity of that traditional knowledge with the modern science.
Thanks a lot, Aran. Very helpful. We will come back to two of these issues you just picked up. First, request to all of you, when you get a moment, obviously all of you have mobile with internet, moment is here. You can go to the website and read all the case study story maps. Why story maps? Each case study has bilingual story maps. One language of the community and one English or sometimes French. This is important because when we talk about local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, community knowledge, how is it portrayed? How is it disseminated? How is it shared? And we, in each of these case studies, develop these story maps with the communities, with the photographs, with their voices, you will see. So, I'm not marketing a story map. I'm illustrating the point that our dissemination of knowledge comes in a straitjacket, refereed journals and expensive books. And even when we work with the communities, they don't get to access this. So this is a way, a methodology of sharing knowledge, which is not just written, but visual, oral, and is accessible in a language to the community itself, so that they feel proud of the knowledge that has been put there. So thank you very much, Aran, for illustrating that, and we will come back to it. This is a case study from Colombia, and second one. And this is where indigenous women of 2, 3 different tribes came together and said, we want to protect our forest. But they were hesitant whether they knew anything about it or not. And then they interacted with some engineers, foresters, health experts, and that gave them the strength to recognize their own knowledge, value it, and then build a process of systematizing and mapping the entire forest where they were living. So, Paloma, how did this process come about, where women hesitant initially, then they became confident, and then they mapped this whole process, and now protecting it from the mining companies hanging around there?
Thank you. So the first thing is that, well, this is located in the Putumayo region in Colombia. This region is located between the Andean mountains and the Amazon, the beginning of the Amazon region. So it's a very green zone with a lot of plants and also with many eyes there to extract. So this project begins with, because in these 3 communities, indigenous communities, there was the same problem, and was that the women have been suffering violence in their homes, but also in their communities. So the initiative of this leader, of the leader of this project, whose name is Waldina, was to encourage them to go outside the home where they have been suffering violence. So when, as women were relegated to home work, then they realized that they didn't know well their territory. And the territory is something that has always been so in connection with women. So that was something that they were forgetting because they were relegated to the home work. So this project go out, like, yes, the women in the 3 different communities, and then they join and meet each other, and then they start walking the territory. They start walking, they start recognizing the plants, and in this relationship with another people with other knowledges that were forest engineers and yes, they realize that they actually have the knowledge. They remember, not realize, but remember that they had the knowledge of the forest, they have the knowledge of their own land, and they can't make this knowledge useful, actionable, so they became guardians of the forest. So when they realize that what they know was knowledge, and that what they know about the land was also knowledge about spirituality, about use of sacred plants, of medicinal plants, and they became, and they have a better place in their communities. They were strengthened by leaders, as a leaders. So that's like a very important thing about this change of knowledge to encourage women.
Thanks a lot. This is very, very empowering story as well, because many a times communities and indigenous people themselves begin to feel that only those who have gone to university and acquired a PhD are knowledgeable, and that they are stupid. And this socialization happens over decades and generations. So they begin to themselves feel hesitant about what they know. And when this interaction makes them realize what they know, they are always ready to learn more about those issues. And then academic knowledge, expert knowledge, professional knowledge can be readily shared. And this process is a very interesting example of that, Paloma. Thank you. Shailesh, a normal question that is asked is that when communities, when women begin an economic enterprise on some natural resources like water or trees or plants or forest, the profits generated tend to result in further deforestation and further climate destruction. Now I know that the Kaleshwar Women's Cooperative is doing very well economically, but how come the forests have not been finished off?
It's a very important question, Sen. And it's of course, generally when any enterprise comes in a profits, and then generally question comes then back that whatever resources being used, that will be harvested or being deployed in due to the getting profit. But here is the story is totally opposite, because of that if we talk the area where we belong, where the story actually we are talking. So that area is actually known very well for the birthplace of the Chief Coandol. The community having the good sense of the conservation. But again, the question comes that once you reap the profits, so definitely then economic returns and that kind of things come. For taking care of that, cooperatives sensitize their community member that how to sustainable harvesting is important for any resources. That kind of sensitization actually the cooperative member carry out with their associate members. And good thing is they try to educate them that if you harvest everything is today, definitely you will get a more profit today, but you will not have for tomorrow. So then we try to educate them that economic return is well aligned with the ecological balance. That kind of education they try to pass on. So right now they are not planning just for a season, they are planning just for a long, we can say the generation, not for one thing. And second thing, which is very important, when whatever forest resources they are harvesting, so we are not promoting harvesting higher side, or we can higher quantities. Generally comes into mind that if you are getting profit, then you are harvesting more quantity. It's a common mathematical calculation. But I would like to say that we are harvesting minimum produce, but adding more value through the action research by skill, by trainings. So transforming low value products into high value product, that is basically the thought between this process. And again, one more thing the cooperative has done, if we talk that forest deterioration, how we can reduce, then they diversified their product range apart from these forest-based producers. So what they did, if we talk about Uttarakhand and entire Himalayan region, communities facing climate change variability, and agriculture is not sustainable kind of things. So cooperative also diversify their products by introducing medicinal aromatic plant into integrated within the agriculture production system. So this actually answered very well to the climate change, because this kind of medicinal aromatic plant, they have chosen some specific variety which is can grow easily in even a drought season as well as heavy rains. So that does not affect it.
Thank you.
So
Thank
that
you
kind
very
of
much.
things, dear sir.
Very
And,
good illustration, Shailesh. This is important because indigenous knowledge, community knowledge is always place-based. And women in their own places, in their own geography, they know the habitation, they also know the limits of it. They don't want to overexploit it, and they have produced procedures and protocols among themselves so that limited amount of natural resources are used and they are protected for generations. And this place-based knowledge, and themselves women are there, so their own livelihood will not be aimed to destroy their own place, their own forest. So thank you very much. A quick one to you, similar to this question, but how did these, traditional people generalized products. But if climate impacts are local, contextual, then the process needs to be generalized, not the product, because it is not marketing chocolate made in one city around the world. The solution and the social geographies of those contexts, the local communities of those contexts have to be owners of that solution, and only then they will implement those solutions. Externally imposed solutions for diverse local contexts do not work, and we are already seeing that, particularly in climate and health and those kinds of issues. And finally, in all these cases that you will read about, there was intensive training to researchers on community-based participatory research methodology. And one of the principles of that training was that community leaders are your co-researchers. So all these case studies have been co-produced with community leaders because they are not certified as PhD, because they are not able to speak only the English language, they don't have the visibility many a times. So the process of community-based participatory research is now being used to train young researchers in social sciences. And we were discussing this in previous presentation. And you will be happy to know, especially because many of you are from the Asian countries, I'm very proud of the fact that in this country, National Education Policy of 2020 has now mandated that students and teachers will learn from the community. There is a credit course that they have on socially responsible community engagement. And in doing that, they are all learning community-based participatory research. It is now mandated even for the internships for all students, irrespective of the study or course or discipline they are in. So I think the methodology of undertaking this research is itself an important part of respecting and valuing that knowledge and building a process of mutual trust which enables articulation of their knowledge and their willingness to engage with expert knowledge. So we wanted to highlight this in the case study. Please read all the story maps, and there is also working papers there. And those of you who are keen and interested, we will have future conversations. I can see that time has run out, and if still there are one or two questions, we are happy to. It says time is up. And otherwise, we can chat a bit over lunch as well. So thank you all. Thank you, AASSREC. Thank you, Miguel. And thank you, ICSSR, and all of you. Thank you very much.
And likewise, we thank Dr. Rajesh Tandon and all our presenter and panelists for this session. Thank you very much for that wonderful discussion. So now we will break for lunch. Lunch is again served downstairs, same room as yesterday, and we will return here at 2:20 p.m. for our last stretch, the afternoon session of day 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much.